With Representative Buddy Carter, Republican of Georgia, member of the Budget Committee, also serves on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Representative Carter, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Being a member of the Budget Committee, could you offer a roadmap of how the House is planning and keeping government funded past January?
Well, certainly we have the continuing resolution that's going to take effect, or has taken effect, I should say, and will carry us through January 19th for 4 of our bills that we hope that we will be able to get done by then, and I think we will. I feel very comfortable that we can get those done, and then the rest of them will come due, as you know, on February 2nd, and we'll continue to work on those as well. But the main focus right now, I think, has to be to get those 4 bills done. We've got to go through the Senate. We've got to compromise with them. We've got to conference with them and make sure that we're on the same page. Then, of course, we have to get it to the White House and get it signed into law.
Fair to say that, though, on its face, what the House will provide is not on the same page with the Senate?
Well, look, you know, that's why you go to conference. I've been saying, and I continue to say, and will continue to say, that I'm sick and tired of legislating in the idea of what the Senate may accept and what they won't accept. We have to do our job in the House. We have to come up with good legislation, then we send it to the Senate, then we conference. That's the way the process is supposed to work, and that's the way we should approach the process.
You talked about the bills, 4 done and still 3 to go. I think if I got that correctly, is there enough time to do that?
There is enough time. We can, you know, look, the 4 bills that are due by January 19th, we should be able to get those done. The Senate has already passed them in a minibus, and we just need to conference and get them together and get those passed. We've still got the Ag bill to get through the House, and I think that we can do that if we can. Or we may send it straight to conference. We may just accept what they have over in the Senate and go to conference and try to work it out that way. There are a number of different options that we have here to get this done.
To what degree, then, if time runs out and perhaps it's not done yet, that another CR comes into play?
Well, that, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Our hope is that that is not going to be the case. Our hope, obviously, is that we can get these done and get them done in a way that we will not have to do another CR, that these 4 bills will go into effect before January 19th, and then we'll concentrate on the other 8 bills that have to be passed as well.
We heard the Speaker mention that when it comes to that package that includes Israel and Ukraine aid, that Speaker Johnson says he thinks it will pass in the House. Do you share his confidence?
I do think it'll pass in the House. You know, we've already done the resolution supporting Israel, and I was a co-sponsor of that resolution. Hamas is obviously a terrorist organization. They need to be eliminated. I agree with that. And but at the same time, we need to help Israel. We need to defend Israel. They need to have the resources to be able to defend their citizens, to be able to defend their state, and we want to make sure that we're there. Israel is an important ally for us, and we have to keep that in mind. Now, I applaud Speaker Johnson in the way that he approached this in a fiscally responsible way by identifying how we were going to use those funds, where we were going to get those funds from, instead of just creating the funds themselves. I applaud him for doing that, and I will say that those Democrats who voted against that, who have the feeling that it's more important to fund IRS agents than it is to fund Israel, that their priorities are misaligned.
You've heard probably discussions when it comes to that aid about the potential of conditions being, particularly for Israel, conditions being put on future aid. Where do you think those discussions are going?
Well, I do think, you know, there will be some conditions, and that's okay. I certainly don't want blank checks sent there, but I do want to see progress made, and I think Israel's making progress, and you know, the progress should be to wipe out Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group. They kill innocent citizens, and what happened on October 7th, we cannot tolerate that in this world.
If you say conditions are okay, what level of conditions are you comfortable with?
Well, you know, if we said certain benchmarks that we want to see, then perhaps that will be okay, and we'll have to see what those benchmarks are. But at the same time, again, I don't want us to repeat what we've done in other situations where we've just sent blank checks without any kind of benchmarks at all. What we need to be doing is to have a plan. That's the problem that we have right now in Ukraine. That's why a lot of Republicans are hesitating. We support Ukraine. Republicans support Ukraine. We want them to be successful. But we also want to see a plan.
Well, when it comes to the negotiations over the budget and funding, sir, one of the topics that have come up, particularly on the Senate side and the House, is when it comes to border security. At the end of the day, what would you like to see as a result of these negotiations specifically towards border security?
Well, what we would like to see is H.R. 2 passed. Look, the border is in shambles. There's no question about this. This administration has totally ignored this border. It is a porous border, and what's happening there, there are records being set. If you look back in October, you'll see that over 240,000 people crossed that border. There were 12 people who crossed that border who are on the terrorist watch list. This is serious, and we need to get more serious about it. This administration needs to get serious about it. This week, we're going to be considering a bill that is protecting our communities from failure to protect the southern border. And that is extremely important because we've got to stop the incentives that are coming, that are drawing these people to come across here, including housing. Yeah, and what this bill this week will do will eliminate and first of all revoke what New York City is doing and putting people up in national parks, and it will prohibit national parks from being used for tent cities for these people.
Representative, because you're on the Budget Committee, one more budget question. It was Representative Chip Roy yesterday in an op-ed. He talked about matters of budget, and he wrote this in part saying, when it comes to the budget and widely reported side deals, and that's in quotations, to use budget gimmicks that would allow for $54 billion, roughly the annual budget for the Department of Homeland Security, in spending above the caps, saying that Democrats expect us to capitulate to those deals. He's calling for Speaker Johnson to reject that excess spending. What do you think of that approach?
Well, I agree in principle with Chip, and I think he brings up a good point. This is the type of math, if you will, that has been used. It's voodoo math. And it is side deals that they get around it, and that's what we got to eliminate. Look, we've got a serious problem in this country. The number one issue in our country right now, the biggest threat we have, is our national debt. You know, if you look at the spending line items in our budget, you'll see that number one is Social Security, number three is Medicare, number four is defense. So what is number two? The interest on our debt. We cannot continue with that. We've got to, it's not sustainable. We've got to stop this. So I applaud Chip Roy for what he is trying to do to identify how we are getting to these deficits that we are experiencing here.
So you would agree then, if to follow through for Speaker Johnson, to follow Chip Roy's suggestion then?
I would hope that he would at least look at it, and yes, I would hope that he would follow that suggestion.
Representative, the future of George Santos, what do you think should happen to him?
Well, look, I'm going to vote to have him expelled. I think the Ethics Committee has already found enough evidence that, this can't be tolerated. This is not a place for someone like this that is doing these kind of things to be serving in the United States House of Representatives. And I think it's a bad reflection on the entire body, and we just don't need someone like that serving with us.
Representative, if that does happen, what's your concern about the majority Republicans will have in the House?
Well, my concern, obviously, I want us to be in the majority. That's very important because we need to get our policies through. But more important is, I think, the status of the House and making sure that we keep this a body that is respected and a body that all of us can be proud to serve in.
Representative Buddy Carter, representative of Georgia, he serves on the Budget Committee, joining us this morning. Representative, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Back to